Welcome to another episode of Dope Chats with Stretch. I am Stretch, yours truly, your 6 for 6 phenomenon. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Here we go. Which member of Migos did not have a verse on their song Bad and Bougie?
No idea.
Come on.
I have no idea. I know the Migos had a song called Tasty. Stir Fry.
What up, everybody? How you feel? Happy New Year! Yes, indeed, man. It's the first episode of Dope Chats with Stretch for 2023. So glad to be here. So glad to be in your presence on this beautiful Wednesday. I had to go back, and I was just saying to myself, I had the baldy for a little bit, started to let my hair grow back, but now I got this. I don't know. I think I can call this the ultra Billy D. Williams, you know what I'm saying? Extra slick back. I'm looking more and more like my father every day, and I don't know how I feel about that because all that dude does is sleep all day now. But anyway, man, we are going to have a good time tonight, man. It is the 23rd of, or is it 23rd? No, it's the 25th of January, 2023. I'm super excited because, as we always get ready for the new year, we do a lot of things when it comes to affirmations or we got resolutions and things of that nature that we want to do better with ourselves, not only mentally, physically, but also financially. And tonight my guest is the CEO. She's big time. She even got a nickname, aka the Money Coach. Her name is Andrea Jackson. She's going to stop through and she's going to talk to us about money. All right, as my man, the $1 Million Man, used to say in the WWE, everybody's got a price, and we're going to find out what your price is on how you can establish something more for you and your family and stop living paycheck to paycheck. So with that being said, let's bring it to the stage. Andrea, everybody. Hey!
Oh, we get our own sound effects. Oh, yeah. My. Okay.
I was trying to pull up my sound effects, but I couldn't pull them up, so I had to do it for, doing myself. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, good. I got you.
Shots. No, I'm just kidding. It's all good. Andrea, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm so excited to be here tonight and just have an opportunity to talk to your guests. And thank you so much for inviting me to be on tonight. I think it's just an awesome topic. So I'm ready to get started. I'm excited.
Let's do it. So with it being said, we now are in 2023. And with you doing what you do as far as financial literacy and helping those folks out there to, establish something other than just living off of their paycheck, what are some of the first things that you would suggest people start doing now to get the year started off on a good note?
Well, one of the things I think that they should start every year with a vision in mind in regards to what they want to accomplish that year. I love how earlier you talked about just the different areas of prosperity. So you said not just mental, not just physical, and also financial. And when I speak to people, I'm thinking about, where are they in their belief level? So I'm always looking at spiritual prosperity, mental, physical, relationships, and financial. So you should have a vision in all those areas for your 2023. And so when it comes to the finances, you definitely need to have a space that you say, okay, in 2023, these are the things I want to accomplish. But I also encourage people to break them up in 90-day chunks. And so in quarters. So when you think about the seasons of the year, the seasons happen in quarters for a reason. And so there should be 90-day chunks that lead into 365 days, so that you're not trying to take on too much, but you can accomplish an amazing amount of things in 90 days.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of time, I think that's where the disconnect happens with a lot of people, where they start to feel overwhelmed and just, disheveled, in the sense of, like, they say, okay, I got my Discover, I got my mortgage, and I got this. I want to knock everything out in, 10 to 15 days. And it just doesn't happen that way. And then you start to find yourself getting, further and further in the hole on, with anything, not whether it's from, paying your bills to setting up some sort of, savings account, or wanting to get into stocks and bonds. It's just like you said, I really appreciate how you mentioned that, quarters, do it in 90 days, because that way you're able to set some sort of goal for yourself, and
Absolutely.
then you can just check it off and you can feel a sense of accomplishment. When it comes to money in Black folk, what is the big misconception with us when it comes to money? Because I have a thing where, my grandmother always used to tell me, like, like my father's father, and even sometimes my father, money can't stay in their pocket too long. You know what I mean? It's like it burns a hole in their pocket. What is our big misconception when it comes to that?
Well, when I look at, so I don't even know if it's a misconception, because unfortunately it's true. So the challenge is that we are the largest
Right.
consumers in this entire country. But one of the things that I always tell people is don't beat yourself up about, and get all guilty and sad about perhaps a way in which you were taught, because we don't do what people say, we do what people do. So we follow. So if your grandmother is saying that these are the people that were around you, this is what you saw. So if this is what you saw, then odds are you're going to duplicate what you saw. So what we have to do as a community is just redirect our thought processes. But these thought processes go back to a long time ago. And whenever I have an opportunity to share this, I never take credit for it. I was at Willie Wilson's church. It's not his church anymore. He retired. But I always mess it up. It's in Southeast by the big chair. Somebody knows what it is. But but the church, so at the basement of that church is actually an African-American museum, and it has like a lot of artifacts. And that particular day, me and my children went there for a meeting that was happening, and he talked about something called a chit. Now, a chit is also found at the National Smithsonian as well. And what a chit is that's how slaves were paid when the slaves became free, and now they were either indentured servants or they had their land and they worked their land. How they got paid from the plantation owners were with chits. And so what a chit was, it was just a piece of paper, and it allowed you to go to the store, but you had to spend all of it within a certain time frame. So what I mean by that is the chit expired Friday. And so because it expired on Friday, then let's say the chit was $25. You had to spend all $25 by Friday, regardless of whether or not you needed it. You couldn't save it. It didn't accumulate, nothing. You had to spend it. So ergo, we became this group of people that spend. It really does start like that. It sounds crazy to think that it was almost 300 years ago, but it is. And when these things are planted in our mind from a belief level and how we behave, we continue to still do that. And then you go through changes within society where if you are denied basic rights, like you can't drink out of the same water fountain, you can't eat at the same counter. It's certain things that as a man, you were denied. I think about my granddad, and he talked about how he was the first manager of an A&P in the Washington, D.C. area, but he was surrounded by Caucasians. And he talked about the disrespect and how little kids in his town would call him by his first name, which is why he never told us what his first name was. He always gave us his middle name because it was just so disrespectful. But what if I can't have that, if I can't have that respect, then how do I go after respect? I can go after respect with the way that I look. Right. So I dress a certain way. I drive a certain type of car to get respect in my community, regardless of whether or not I could afford it. And so there's just certain things that have created this mindset, and we have to be very intentional and deliberate about changing it so that future generations don't fall in the same hole.
That's what's up. I can dig it. You're tuned in. You're listening to Dope Chats with Stretch. It's the podcast with yours truly, Stretch 6'6" Phenomenon. My guest tonight is Andrea Jackson, aka the Money Coach. We're talking all things finances and hopefully enlightening some folks out there when it comes to matters of money. If you're on Facebook, please leave your comments on Facebook. And if you have a question, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Shout out to James Henson. He's checking in. James, shout out my man James. No doubt about that. So let's talk more about setting us up for the future. is there ever a wrong time to start with planning for retirement? Case in point, if you are someone who just got into the workforce, maybe at the age of 35 or maybe 40, and you know, especially as we're coming out of COVID, and your profession was something different, and now you're into something else that gives you that opportunity to accumulate some money towards retirement. Is there ever a wrong time to start?
There's never a wrong time to start saving ever. Regardless of what your career is, because what I do know is that the average adult in this country wastes $200 a month. And because after COVID, I would go so far to say probably almost $400 a month, because people just think about the amount of money Instacart made. The amount of money folks made just ordering food, Uber Eats, companies were being created off of the consumer needs of people sitting in the house. That's true. So folks waste a lot of money. When you think about cell phones and how much, me and a friend of mine was talking today about how the 14 just came out and now they're advertising the 15. But the way in which we function, there's money there. So regardless of whether it's $25 that I start somebody out with, or it's $2,500, or it's $25,000, or $25 million, it's never too early to start. You have to start. And so the hardest step is the first step. But if you just keep walking, that's why when I was talking about the quarters, even if you come out of the 90 days and you literally take one day at a time, and don't be so concerned about how it's going to end up. Hey, look, did I establish some goals today and I accomplished those milestones? I'm going to pat myself on the back. Yay. Did I have a spending plan and a saving plan in place, and I was able to not dip into my savings because I was taking money out of my spending? Did I do that today? Well, great job. Pat myself on the back. So it's never, ever too early. Again, what you need to do is just start. My kids have started. I waited till they started when they were old enough to tithe. So I'm a Christian, so we do tithe. And so one of the things I read a long time ago was that if I give my kids money and they give money at the church, then they're giving the church my money. So it's not their money. So really early, when they were probably about 7, 8 years old, and they would get an allowance, they had to give 10% of their allowance to the church. That's just what they had to do. And so they could save their 10%. And so I taught them early, very early, the 10-10-80 rule. 10% you give. So even if you're not a Christian, I always tell people, give 10% minimum. And so when I think about the Jewish community, people always say, well, Jewish people stay wealthy. You know why? They give 27% of their money. Wow. And so again, we still struggling with the 10. But if we just think about it from the standpoint of a seed time and harvest, I've never seen a giver be broke. And so you start with that, but you start early. Then they learn the concept of saving. So now fast forward, they're 21 and 23. Both of them work. They still do the 10-10-80. And so when things pop up, they have savings in order to make sure that they don't have to call mommy and daddy all the time. Right. And so again, we have to start. So there's never too early. As soon as they're able to understand the concept of a dollar, then that's when you start.
Yeah, okay. That's what's up. That's what's up. And see, I asked that question because not only is she my guest, but she's my coach. And I've come to her at this point in my time, and I've been humbled tremendously. She keeps it real, because in my mind, I was one of those individuals where I just blew through money, boom, boom, boom. Especially because, I'm single, not married, don't have any kids, so I was just like, it's just me. I'm doing me. But then I realized, oh man, I need to slow my roll a little bit, because especially during COVID, that's when I realized I was like, I really didn't have anything set up. Yeah, I make a nice chunk of change, but where is my money going? It wasn't funneling and feeding back into me necessarily from that standpoint of what I needed it to do. I was wasting cash on things.
Interesting things.
But we're still working. I'm a work in progress. We got a meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I think you'll be.
I'll be happy.
You'll be surprised.
I'll be happy. I just want to be happy. And I tell people all the time when people become my clients, I'm like, it's gonna be times that you don't like me, but I promise you, you'll love me. I am
Yeah.
a straight shooter. I don't have time. Like, to me, time is precious. And
Right.
so, shout out to Michael Deloach who referred me to you. And
Mhm.
the thing is, if somebody takes the time they want to get better, then if you want to get better, then and to be able to do that, then you're going to you have to make sacrifices.
Mhm.
There is no success without sacrifice. And
Right.
so it's not going to be comfortable. Nobody does anything when they're comfortable.
Right.
And so
Right.
I try to get people focused on the future, and I would have never outed you. But since you did, since you said, I
Hey.
love the fact that I'm your coach. But my thing is, everyone needs accountability. Everyone needs mentorship. And that's also, you talked about what are, the misconceptions. This is a misconception. I'm good. Oh my God. Government employees swear they good. I'm good. That's a
Mhm.
misconception, because you're good in comparison to what? So that's one. And the other one is, I got this. We good at leaning to our own understanding. And so we see something wrong to seek out assistance,
Right.
when accountability is necessary in every area if you want to be successful in that.
No, hey, listen, you right on that. You hit it on the nail. Hit the nail on the head. I mean, there are times where, and I put myself out there because I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna walk the walk, I'm gonna talk the talk, and I know that I'm a work in progress, because again, it's a lot of learned behavior that you are accustomed to having. Like, my mindset at sometimes I can't be like, oh, doing and thinking like I was 25 at 46, because those times are different. Things are different. It was cool back then to just be like, yeah, man, pew, 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 just splurging, because you when you're young, you live like there's no tomorrow, right?
That's
and so you kind of just have that mentality. Shout out to Carolyn Williams in the Facebook chat. She said it's never too late. Started saving in the 40s, listening to Andrea, and was able to retire at 62 with bills paid. Shout out to you, Carolyn Williams. Yeah, Carolyn, hopefully I can be like you. You know what I'm saying?
That's actually, and this is just a testimony to when people support and trust you. That's my mom. And so earlier I talked about, you literally just do what you see. And so she again observed just consumerism, and that's kind of where we were at. And so getting to a certain age in her 40s, she didn't have anything saved, and she wasn't in a position that she needed to be in. But I thank God every day she trusted me.
Yeah.
When one of the things, when you work for yourself and you in business for yourself, you'll hear people talk all the time about family support. Like, why don't you support? Why don't family and friends support? And I have to say, I am truly blessed. My family and my friends support me. And so the thing is, the misconception, I love that word. That's going to be our word for today.
Yes.
The misconception is people confuse family and friends. See, there's not a person that I call family that does not support me. There's not a person who I call friend that does not support me. Now, there's a bunch of people that are acquaintances, and there are people that I know, and perhaps I put them in a friend box, or perhaps I put them in a family. See, I did not have any control over who I am related to.
Mm-hmm.
So I have relatives, but they're not my family.
Right.
I'm closer to some of my business partners than I am to my relatives. And so, again, my family and my friends support me, and I count it all joy that my mother and my father and my stepdad are those people. And look, and my husband and his wife, like, all these people support me because they trust me, and I appreciate that.
That's what's up. That's what's up. You're tuned in to Dope Chats with Stretch. Tonight, my guest is Andrea Jackson, CEO of Andrea Lawan and Associates, and we're talking about money. So, and money, good money habits. Speaking of money habits, what would be the top 3 things that you would tell somebody who comes to you just straight? They have no indication whatsoever on how to manage their funds. What would be the top 3 things that you would tell them?
Well, first thing I'm always going to look at is what I call income protection. And so the very first thing people will go to, they'll start talking about their goals and dreams, or savings, or this, or getting out of debt. But that's not where I start, although I will hit those. The first place I go is what I call income protection. And so in layman's term, other people call it life insurance. I don't call it life insurance, because what I'm protecting, like, I have it on me, And so when I have this, like, and I call it income protection because I'm protecting the income of the breadwinner. My daughters, when they were in college, one is still there, they were dependent on my income. So if I pass away, they're still dependent on those checks being written. So therefore, I need to protect that income. If you have a 2-parent household or 2-income household, in your particular case, you may be single, but there's still assets that you have accumulated that you want to pass down to relatives in your family or your nephews or your nieces or whatever. And so these things need to be protected because when Stretch passes away, when Andrea passes away, our income goes with us. So the number one thing I think people should take seriously is that they need to have a policy outside of their job, and not any kind of policy. They need a term policy. And why a term policy? Because it's cheaper, it makes sense. And at the end of the day, the purpose of life insurance is to protect the income of the breadwinner, to bring money back into the household if you pass away. It is not for infinite banking. It is not to establish a retirement fund that you have to borrow from. It is not to have living benefits. This is not the purpose of life insurance. And therefore, you use it for the purpose and that intended purpose. When used correctly, you can actually, even with a term policy, because every life insurance is a term. Ours happen to be 95. Other companies may be 99, but they're all just terms of time. But you don't need it for forever if you're accumulating wealth. So the second thing I'm going to show people how to do and say is important is you better save your money. I know folks like to follow, and I don't have a challenge because we teach some of the same principles with Dave Ramsey. But Dave Ramsey goes hard in the paint about getting out of debt. And my challenge, and I explain to people, is that you better be taking $1 million advice. I mean, you could be taking $1 million advice from somebody and you just a regular folk. And so when you start talking about you just need to get out of debt, you just need to get out of debt. Well, what exactly happens when that emergency occurs and you haven't saved any money, or all you have saved is that $1,000 that he talks about, and you get a $2,000 emergency? You're going straight to that credit card. Right. So you can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. So you need to be saving, and you need to be saving your money at a minimum of 10%. And then that 10% needs to be divided into an emergency account, a short-term account, into a long-term retirement type of account. And then when you get to that point, we start talking about wealth building and creation of wealth. But you ought to be saving. So first, you better have protection on your income, have life insurance outside of the job. That job guarantees you absolutely nothing. Hey, and I'm not coming in on my government employees, but I promise you, living in the area that we live in, that's the hardest nut to crack, because they believe stuff. They don't even understand the terminology. They're like, well, I have 5 times my salary. Oh, Fegley? Even Fegley tell you to go get a separate policy, because they already know at 45, it's going to start to change. At 50, you're going to notice the change. And at 65, you're going to be crying tears. So you better have something in place outside. So you want to do that. Number 2, you want to save. And number 3, you want to be in a position that you're managing your money so that you can get out of debt. Part of managing your money is knowing what's the difference. And I'm going to tell you, Stretch, I took this from you. And ever since we met the first time, I took the verbiage because I liked it. I liked that you had non-essential, essential, and spending. I literally sit down with people like I made it up. You need to have non-essential, essential spending, because it works. And so when I say it truly works. And so if you divide your money up from a space of budgeting and managing, that you have your non-essential things, your essential things in your spending account, and then you're doing those other things because saving is totally separate, then you don't have to worry about going into that savings account, which is now turned into a holding account, get money out of, because you have divided your money up to be able to account for stuff. And part of that essential is getting yourself out of debt. Right. A program that will do that. That's 3. That was 3 kind of and a half, but 3.
Yeah, I could dig it. So now, what are some of the, I guess, we're about to venture into the best part of the year for some folks, and that is tax time.
I'll use my face on.
It's tax time. And
refund.
Yes, when it comes to the refund. So what advice would you give people with who will be receiving refunds? And in essence of, you know, giving and paying back, or not, well, putting money back into the community.
Absolutely.
What should they do with their refunds?
It's more so what they shouldn't do.
Right.
You should not go buy another television. You should not go buy another car. You should not, unless the old car is just kaput. Right. And in case you better not buy a new one, you still better buy a used one. And so that's what you shouldn't do. What you should do is make sure, because again, this is your money coming back to you. So I'm not trying to take all your joy, but I would say people, at least 50% of that money should be put away for, you know, because you should, like I said, it's emergency, but then there's short term. And so your short term could be your travel that you want to accomplish. You know, it's crazy to travel on credit. That is like so crazy. But these are the things that happen in our community, and we accumulate all this debt, making memories and experiences that keep us in bondage for a really long time. So if you were to, you know, you take half of that and you do right with it, take the other half and do something fun with it. But please, if you already got the 65 to 75, you don't need the 83 3D TV. If you got one in the closet, the living room, the bathroom, and the sink, you don't need one backyard in the backyard. You just don't. And so look at you like, dang it. It's like you don't need a whole new living room set. Like the things that we do is funny. And so if you, earlier when I talked about having that vision, when you know the vision for your future, when you know the things you want to do, and those things may be traveling, then you can stay focused on that and say, you know what, let me make sure I put some here, and then I can ball out and have a good time with this amount here. Right. But yeah, I do recommend that part of it goes into saving. Do not take all of it. I don't think you should take all of it and pay your debt off. And then you sad. And so it's like, I didn't pay off my debt. And you hit something earlier. It's just like weight. When people gain weight, like I'm always laughing. Sometimes I look at my old pictures, and believe it or not, Stretch, believe it or not, I think, you know, everybody go back to high school when you're 52. I mean, well, how old I be this year? What is this year? Oh, Lord, I'll be 52 this year. And so every now and then you go back and you look at old pictures, and I'm like, I really was that small. I was so small in high school. You could see my collarbone. Like I was like, I'm like, if there was crack, I wasn't on it, but God darn, I'm just saying I was skinny. And so now I don't ever want to go back to that space. Right. But when I think about how small I was in relationship to, you know, I got a little healthier. And when I look at that came from eating. I'm not going to lose the weight in 5 minutes. Right. And so it took me 30 years to accumulate it. I'm not going to get rid of it in 5 minutes. So I have to put the work in to make sure that it's a healthy lifestyle and that I'm not like binging it. So it's the same thing with debt. It took you a while to get in it. You're not going to get out of it in 5 minutes. It's an emotional response when people want to take lump sums of money and pay off their debt. Right. Because you cannot, and we're going to talk about the market and why now is the time to actually put it in. Don't believe the hype. Last year was a wonderful time to invest. And so the thing is, you have to be in a position that you can have liquid, like you can get to cash. Because paying off all your debt, if you haven't changed your habits, you won't do anything but accumulate the debt again. Right. So the debt is just a result of a bad habit that needs to be changed in your mind. So what are the thoughts so that you can change your belief system? Because your actions and your results follow your belief system. Right. So taking off lump sums, no, you get a plan and a strategy. I sit down with clients and I put a strategy in place and I say, do it this way. I'll get you out of debt in anywhere from 5 to 10 years, including the mortgage. Now we're freeing up money and now you can have a really good time. And and you own some stuff. There you go. Misconception. Because you have a mortgage does not make you a homeowner. It actually makes you a home buyer. And so if you don't believe me, don't make 4 payments and see who come for the home. And so, but we will tell somebody quickly, like with this air of superiority. Well, I own my home. You do? Your mortgage is paid off? Well, no, I still have a mortgage. Oh, so then you're a home buyer. And so again, you just imagine being able to actually get out of a 30-year mortgage in 10 years because you just strategized paying your debt off. And so when you get that refund, make sure you're just being smart with it. Save some, pay some debt down, ball out.
Right. Now, you know, you hit on a lot of good points, and some of the things that we talked about during our conversation that, you know, made me like freeze up. I'm like, oh man, come on now, wait a minute, because I want you to at least, if you don't mind, expound on it a little bit, so the people don't feel overwhelmed in the sense of saying like, okay, if I can get out of debt in 5 to 10 years, does that mean like I'm cutting out all of my social activities or things of that nature? Because, you know, when people say stuff like that, some people freeze up and they're like, well, wait a minute, does that mean I gotta, you know, eat tuna for the rest of my life?
Right.
Yeah, you know,
oatmeal.
yeah.
I gotta eat cream of wheat tuna and oatmeal.
Yeah.
No. And you know what? I ain't counting no name. I ain't gonna call nobody names, but there are people that teach that. Like they teach you gotta get rid of everything.
Right.
Who in the world wants to live like that?
Right.
No, you do everything in decency and order, which again, going back to that essential, non-essential, and that spending account, you just have to be disciplined. No, you can still have fun, but you have to have fun, and it can't be all fun. And so what I mean by that, you know, one of the things we discussed was that, you know, your fun activities that was happening, you know, 5 times a week and you know, 3 or 4 weeks a month, but the amount of money that was being spent in that space.
Right. Well, wait a minute. Just for clarification, I want people out there to think that I was spending my time at the booty club.
Right. No, not at all.
Throwing dollars up.
He's a cigar smoker.
I'm a cigar smoker. And,
yeah, he is a cigar smoker. I was going to clear it up, Stretch.
Yeah,
I was going to clear it up.
Don't
you think bad about it.
Yeah, because your mother's on here. She can be like, oh, that boy.
Yeah, like, right. What are you doing with his money? Right. So he was spending money, but a lot of money at you about to say at the cigar bar.
Right.
But let me tell you something. The amount of money people spend at happy hour. Let's just happy hour, they real happy. And so the worst I've ever seen, and it was so funny. I promise you, it was so hilarious to me. Now, it wasn't funny to them. The wife didn't realize, so the husband worked in that area off of Mercantile near Jasper's. So but his place was Ruby Tuesdays. And so she would be like, well, he go to Ruby Tuesday. And she was like, but I only go for happy hour. I'm not spending that much money. So you already know. I'm like, let me see the bank statements. And so when we got to his bank statement, he was spending upwards of $1,500 to $2,000 a month at happy hour. And so I was like, what in the world are you doing? And he was going every day. And then every now and then he felt real generous. So he buy food for people and buy drinks for people. Dude, you not rich. What are you doing? And so, but I say that to say everything in decency and order. So it's not that you can't enjoy yourself, but you have to enjoy yourself and put the right things first.
Right.
And so you just like, instead of going to happy hour or to the cigar bar 5 days a week, go 2. If you enjoy cigars, you told me you jumped out there on your own and said, I'm going to start buying them from online or so because they're cheaper than buying them at the bar.
Right.
And when you told me, because I don't frequent them, so I don't know, you was like, you can bring your own in. So if you can bring your own cigar to the cigar bar, then you're just there. You may get a drink, but you just cut your visit in half in regards to cost.
Right.
So just being mindful and aware of what you're doing with your money and just having a plan, a strategy and a plan is everything. Because as long as you have a plan to go back to, and that plan is incorporating you having fun, it's incorporating your goals and dreams, it's incorporating your milestones, your saving strategy, it's getting you out of debt. If the plan that I put together is doing all of that, then there's no reason for you to freeze up and be paralyzed.
Right.
Because we're going to cover every area, and we do it in a way where I don't just do it and then run away. I'm going to still be there. You can call me. What makes, I tell people, what makes me different? Well, Stretch can call me. He ain't got to call a 1-800 number.
Right.
Now, some of my clients may be watching. They be like, but then you got to leave messages. Oh, I'm going to call you back, though. And so, and the thing is, having that accountability is everything. And so that not freezing up, because most people, honestly, most people in this country make enough money. It's not what they're making. It's the fact that we haven't been taught how to manage what we're making.
Yep.
Grandma and them, they was on to something. They told us some real stuff. They said, if you make $1, save $1.
Right.
That grandma said that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Grandma and them, they have a lot of money, but they knew some very core principles.
Right.
They understood the concept of when you got, it's like, let's say when you got married, the lady's supposed to have a stash that the husband don't know.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because then I always think about, like, how would our, you know, grandparents and great grandparents, or even to a certain degree our parents, function now with all the, you know, bells and whistles that we got going on. Because, you know, back in the 40s and 50s, yeah, you could save a lot of money because you ain't had nothing but a stick and a rock to play with. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you was going out there doing anything.
Oh my God. They would be fine. You know why? Because it's a habit. Like I said, a belief system has been established inside of them.
Right.
They believe that stuff. So they believe, like, so me and my grandma stayed together. My grandmother turned 93 yesterday. And so when I tell you, look, because she probably listened, she'll trip. When I tell you, she got a stash, Stretch. but if you ask her, she gonna cry broke. She gonna be like, I ain't got no money. Man, you got it hidden all over the place, but you got it. And so they're surrounded. Now I will say, which I thought was the funniest thing, about a month ago, she had my mother, and my mother learned, because I was like, don't you be spending your money. You better tell her to spend her own money. So my mother took the money from her and they went and bought her a 55-inch TV. Mm-hmm. I say, Nana, what you need a 55-inch TV for? Because the screen gonna be bigger. Okay. Now they got it on sale. But this was the funny part, Stretch. Because it's a smart TV.
Right.
She didn't have a TV with a fat back. I mean, she wasn't that bad. She did have a flat screen, but it wasn't a smart TV. Right. So you just connect to the cable, you turn it on, you switch the channels, yay. Now she got a smart TV.
Right.
And then she had all these buttons. She was like, this is just stupid. You know what? I'm going to throw it out the window, Andre. I'm just going to throw it out the window. And I'm like, you wanted this thing. Yeah. But it's so funny because all she do, we finally figured it out for her. She just goes straight to cable. I'm like, you couldn't care. But I just don't feel like they would be extravagant.
Right.
Because they have certain principles. They understand the value. And it's exactly because of what you said. The stuff that they've been through. No, the cost of living was less back then.
Yeah.
But they've been through recessions. They've been through unemployment. They lived through civil rights, issues. Mm-hmm. They lived through, people being late. They've lived through so much. They know what they have to do and they do it. And it's not just always about them having fun.
Right.
So I don't think that it would change. I think they'd be fine. We the problem.
We're about to wrap it up, but I love having, good conversation because, within a conversation comes another question. Now, as we into this new year, for those folks that may not know or even care, I don't know, but a recession is on the way.
Is it?
They say recession's on the way. I don't know.
Okay.
If said recession does occur, what should people start doing now to prepare themselves for that? Especially, well, let me say that, because if you're a government worker, you might be, furloughed or whatever like that for a hot second if the government doesn't pass the spending bill, but then you'll get your money back. But to some people, that really, really affects them because, like, based off of what we were just talking about earlier, a lot of people are still living paycheck to paycheck. So, if you have to wait, a couple of months or weeks, you can find yourself in some serious stuff. Yeah. So touch on that if you don't mind.
Well, first of all, the reason why I said isn't the reason why I said it that way is because, again, another misconception. The news is not where you get financial advice from. Mm-hmm. The purpose of the news is to invoke fear. And I always tell people it's like Chicken Little. Run for the hills.
Right.
To invoke fear. Now, are we in inflationary times? Absolutely. But what happens in inflationary times? See, this is the thing about financial literacy that we have to get better at. Because if we understand the ebbs and flows, if we understand how stuff works, so when inflation goes up, simply means the price of things costs more. Yes, eggs are $7 for a dozen. Jeez. So Baby, look, this is a good time to become a vegan. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, so, but yes, that happens. But what else happens? Well, for my older people, my older seniors that like savings accounts, they can get higher interest on a savings account. And so that's also they have an inverse relationship. So when you say a recession occurs when there's not enough money flowing in and people are strapped. But here's the thing again.
Okay.
It truly is not that enough money is not made. It's the fact that we're not managing what we're spending. Because even back in 2008 and 9 and 7 and 8, when they were throwing around, oh my God, we're in a recession. I'll never forget that the parking lots at the fast food spaces was full. The restaurants was full. The malls were full. People were still buying stuff. Nobody I know got rid of their cell phone. Everybody still had cable. They were still streaming. The internet was thriving. So really, it's better if we call it an inconvenience. Like,
right.
Oh my God, some things we may not be able to get. Maybe we can't get the 24 eggs. Now we got to get 12. I mean, and the thing is, and I believe this wholeheartedly, especially in our community, we have to learn. I had to learn. And I encourage you, you've learned it. And I had to learn it, and everybody needs to learn it. You stretch your income to accommodate your dreams. You do not shrink your dreams to accommodate your income.
So say it for the people in the back, please.
My God, it's too many ways in which we have been gifted to be able to make money.
Right.
We work in I work in the financial services field. I train and develop brokers and agents to offer financial solutions. And do you know people will say to me, well, I don't know that I like life insurance. Ain't nobody asked you if you like it. Let me tell you what I like. I like the fact that with my clients, if they pass away, I can go over their house with a check and change their life.
Right.
I don't know whether I like it. It's something that's needed because, hey, everybody that's born is going to die. You better get yourself, and I never call things side hustles. I hate that. Nothing's good that's on the side. Side chicks ain't good. Side dudes ain't good. And at the end of the day, folks don't like the sides. They like the entree. So it ain't a side hustle. It's your business that you're building. And so you need to stretch, create other streams of income, create other ways to make money. So no matter what's coming, I got money. And I got money coming in from multiple sources, not just one.
Look at you. Another great segue. Tonight's episode was brought to you by Last Request, my novel that's on sale right now.
Yes. And the new one that's on the way.
New one that's on the way. Please, for all you out there watching, go to the website, dopesense76.com, pick up your copy. Great book, just in time for Valentine's. Black romance at its finest.
I know that's it. Say it again, Stretch. Say it again.
Black romance at its finest. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, you are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you so much, Coach, for coming through tonight and bestowing some wisdom on everybody out there. It was very, very helpful, very enlightening. And I look forward to our call tomorrow so I can get my kudos. You know what I'm saying? Not that I need kudos, but
you do, because I started out yelling at you. So I remember the conversation. I was like, you know what? I am not your parent.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I'm excited to be able to give you some kudos. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
I was going to say, man, this is a great show. I think I might go to the cigar lounge, but I'm not going to go tonight.
Because you probably have one in the house. Just go out back in the rain, looking sad.
No, that's real sad. I can't smoke outside. The disrespect to the cigar. But no, it's all good. It's all good. But thank you again for coming out tonight. And for those out there who are watching or listening at a later time, if they want to get involved with you and reach out to you for your services, how can they do that?
Okay, so a couple ways to get in touch with me. And so the first way, I'll give my email because I give my website, which if you fill out a form, it'll come straight to me. But it's Andrea Lewan, so AndreaLewan.com. So it's just AndreaLewan.com. And then you can just go to the sheet, you fill out the sheet, and I'll get in contact with you. So that's one way. The other way to get in touch with me is Andrea Lewan and Associates, which is just like really long. So Andrea Lewan Associates, so that's one word, Andrea Lewan Associates @gmail.com. So you can get in touch with me that way. Again, my first name is Andrea LEWAN associates at gmail.com. That's way number 2. And then there's way number 3. Old school, works every time. I always give this disclaimer. I'm about to give out my phone number. It's a real number. So let me tell you this, though. If you crazy, if you a stalker, you got 2 times to say something crazy. Guess what? I know how to block you. And Stretch just said, don't do it. So I'm not even going to do it. So you got those 2 ways. Look at Stretch like, no, Nicole, don't do that. So yeah, my friend, he's always like, oh, Dre, you need another number. This is crazy. You just need it. But I've had the same number since 1996.
Wow.
And so, I am going to get probably a 1-800 number at least this year, so people get contact.
You need a Google number. Just get a good old Google number
to get right. It's just something else to manage, though. Yeah. So I figure, like, if I get
pay for it, you ain't got to pay for it.
It's not even the pay part. It's like doesn't have messages, and they're gonna go somewhere else. I gotta look. I don't want to look nowhere.
You could have it where those calls get forwarded over to your.
Okay, see. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Sad face. Okay, that's fine. That's better than me telling people that I'm gonna block them. So okay.
Don't give out your number. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh Lord. Oh man. But that's what's up, everybody. Another dope edition of Dope Chats with Stretch. Man, the first episode for 2023. Once again, congratulations and thank you. Going out to my guest tonight, Andrea Jackson of Andrea Lawan and Associates, the money coach. If you need her, reach out to her. She's there. She's willing to help you to get you financially stable and, most importantly, financially free.
Amen.
Within 5, 10, 15. Let's stay under 15 years. All right. Depending on how bad your stuff is messed up. But
it could be good though, Stretch. It could be good.
Hey,
that's the thing. Hey, look, if you got $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, you don't know what to do with it, call me. Yeah. I know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it don't have to be bad. I can just I'm gonna enhance and make it better.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, thank you, Andrea. Much love. Appreciate it. All right.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
All right, no doubt, for sure. All right, everybody. Thank you again for hanging out with me tonight. Don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. IG is at Stretch G, and also at DopeSense76 Media. Or you can always hit me up on the good Twitter at Stretch Garrett. But most importantly, I want to thank y'all again. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful night. We'll be back again in February because we're getting closer to Valentine's Day. So I got to do something real good for the good V-Day for all the lovers out there. All right. Until then, be one. Peace.